Hello and welcome to Soups and Sabers. My name is Jordan, and we are here talking about the Marvel Studios Hall H Comic Con panel that wrapped up yesterday. Not a lot of huge things, kind of what I was expecting, is not uh, a lot of news as we still have Doomsday to come later this year and Secret Wars being the only film next year. There's not a lot to discuss, especially they've been doing a lot of the TV show stuff at D23, which I just looked at the schedule. D23, I mean, we're only like 3 weeks away from now. We're 2 weeks away from it when Spider Man comes out, is the panel. So now for D23, a reminder it's the Disney kind of event space that they have, but they don't do separate panels for all of these. So it's like, you know, the stuff that's going to be covered, I believe, in a 2 hour panel from 7 to 9, uh, over in, I guess it's 7 to 9 Pacific time, which means it'd be kind of a late one. But anyway, it's typically in that 2 hours is going to be, Disney animated, Pixar, Disney live action, um, Marvel, Star Wars, Lucasfilm. So, so that's kind of how that is set up at D23. So it's not like they have a full, 2 hour panel either. So, but typically during those lately, they've been doing, a lot of their TV show stuff over there, which is why probably we didn't get Vision Quest really here. Apparently, they did play a snippet of his score for Mick Giacchino, his score for Vision Quest. I guess it was at another panel. I forget which one it was at, but um, so that's something we've, I guess, heard a snippet of. If you were following along with that, people were sharing clips of it and stuff. But we have uh, two movie announcements. One of them was pretty much a given, and I think I actually called the time frame for it. Maybe I forget what I said a couple weeks ago. But one of those is coming out in the December of 2028. So we'll talk about that. And then, of course, we mentioned before there was 3 dates for 2028: a May, a July, and a December. The other movie announced does not have one of those listed. So could be that something's on the move. Could be that the X-Men movie that people were expecting to be announced was not announced, right? Like there's multiple things that it could that could lead to that. So okay. So I guess let's get into it. We got two movie announcements, a new poster for Doomsday, a new trailer that, obviously was not shared to the public, but descriptions of that, and I have like the transcription of that we will talk about. And then of course just kind of wrapping it up with a little bit of a discussion about this stuff. So I was out yesterday. So originally, Ron was asking, "Hey, do you guys want to do a live like we did in 2024?" And that would have been cool. Obviously, none of these announcements are the level of what we had. And if you don't know, we went live on the old Marvel podcast account. This one, Soups and Sabers, took over the old DC account. So the Marvel one is still there. Um, and if you go to our page on the YouTube, you can find links to that channel, but you can also find it in some of the playlists that we've listed there. I've been able to share it into some of those playlists. We did it live. I also cut out and re-uploaded a separate part that was just us reacting to the Doom news. That was when Robert Downey Jr. was announced as Doom, and Doomsday was announced instead of Kang Dynasty and all that good stuff. That was 2 years ago. Those are still on the YouTube. You can find them. We were thinking, hey, let's try to do that again, but scheduling didn't really work out, and who knows if it really would have I mean, I would always do it if we could. But I was out. I was at a baseball game, and the baseball game had just wrapped up, and it seemed like this panel was supposed to start 8:30 Eastern time. I don't think it started fully, like where they're actually announcing stuff until closer to 9. Because I had actually gotten, I have certain accounts that I follow on Twitter that I get notifications of. And as we were getting ready to walk out, I got the notification of Ghost Rider being the new film Ghost Rider starring Ryan Gosling here. This is the if you're listening on the audio, I'm just showing the little post that that Marvel made, has the artwork of, kind of like flamey font that says Ghost Rider. Ryan Gosling, this had been rumored for a while that he was, I guess, interested in it, and it does sound like Kevin Feige said he is the reason this is happening. Kind of I was gonna say better version of the Mahershala Ali Blade situation, where that movie has had trouble getting off the ground. This movie, is dated for 2028 and has a director attached, has a writer attached, has a star attached. It has everything it needs to get actually released. Um, but yeah, it seems like he came to Kevin Feige with some list of comics that he was inspired by I guess Johnny Blaze, and where he would want to take the character. Shawn Levy is the director of this. And it's funny, when I first read this, I was like, oh yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine. It's interesting. They're matching him up with Gosling. And then it's like, I had a realization probably a couple minutes later where I'm like, wait, no, they're teaming up next year too for for Starfighter for Star Wars. So that just shows that potentially Ryan Gosling and Shawn Levy have hit it off during Starfighter. They got the same writer, Jonathan Tropper, to be the writer on Ghost Rider. So it does seem like, for whatever reason, apparently Feige said he's seen Starfighter or early cut of it and liked it as well. It seems like they're like, yeah, let's just get this kind of band back together here uh for a Ghost Rider movie. And if you want to look up the way that they announced them, it was really cool. Josh Horowitz, who does the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, has been asking about this for a while. And, they kind of had him and Feige going back and forth, and then the lights cut out, and Ghost Rider appears, the word, not the character, appears on the screen. Lights come back up, and Ryan Gosling is standing there, and that's how they unveiled Ghost Rider. So pretty cool there. I'm not a huge, I would say, like, I'm not a huge Ghost Rider guy. Like, he's cool. I haven't read, and what I mean by that, I haven't read a lot of his stuff. Obviously, I know him from the Nick Cage movies. I at least seen the first one. Can't remember if I saw the second one, but I remember going into the theater, seeing the first Nick Cage Ghost Rider movie with my friend. So I remember that. Obviously, he was in Agents of Shield. How does that fit in with canon? Not canon now? Who knows? Especially these projects are post Secret Wars, so really anything can kind of go with that. Um, and of course, I know him from like Marvel Ultimate Alliance and stuff like that. So he's a character I'm familiar with, but not one that I actively usually pick up a lot of comics of. Same kind of thing with Blade. So it seems like Blade is dead. I'm not big on Blade. I haven't actually seen any of the Wesley Snipes movies. I was kind of too young for it back in the day. And to be honest, I'm just not big on the whole, like, I guess, vampire hunter stuff. I know a lot of people are like, just make that. It's simple. But like, I'd like to actually have it have a little bit more depth than that. Um, yeah, I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm excited for it. I know typically, I think the thing that surprised me the most was Sean Levy stuff, because it not really does. It doesn't really seem like his sort of genre. Like you usually get like a genre director for this. where maybe they've made stuff like, you know, you know, horror or supernatural stuff in the past. Um, though Levy did do a lot of Stranger Things stuff, so I mean, it's obviously in his bag. I think it's just I think a lot of people think of him more as like a comedy guy. I do think this one will probably have, some comedy in it, of course, but we'll see. I'm actually just really excited for uh getting what's next. I wasn't really thinking we were going to get a lot of post Secret Wars plans because you're kind of locked in here. One of the things that I think we all enjoyed in the build up to Endgame and Infinity War, right, was these announcements. I remember October 28th, 2014, they did you know, uh I think El Capitan Theater announcements, and that's when they unveiled like Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther and Civil War and all this kind of great stuff. But it did kind of take a bit of the sting out of Age of Ultron a bit. Not that we thought these characters were really gonna eat it in Age of Ultron, right? But you know, I kind of remember this sentiment, and I probably had some too, where it's like I just kind of like want to get past this to get to the Thanos stuff, right? And I think we were always I remember kind of saying to myself, like, I don't really want big phase announcements anymore. We got some in what was it, 2019? Is that when they announced Blade? We got some of that, but like, it was expanding because of Disney Plus and doing more movies a year before COVID, right? That you're like, oh, we can still get to all this stuff. It's great. But and it kind of felt like a fresh beginning. Endgame was the end of that. Like we're looking ahead. What's next, right? But with this now, it's like I do feel like it felt good to kind of get this. It's like, okay, what does it look like post Secret Wars? Kevin Feige's been talking about it a little bit of, it's not going to be a full reboot. The way that he's making it sound like is, at the end of Secret Wars, my guess, right, is that we have the Fantastic Four in R616, along with a new team of X-Men, Spider-Man, of course, a new Captain America, whether it's Sam still or a new Steve Rogers, I guess I could say, right? A new Tony Stark Iron Man, and kind of having all of the tools in the toy box, all of the toys in the toy box, right? What am I trying to say? All of the, yeah, all of the toys in the toy box to actually have a chance to mix and match and play with them instead of, okay, well, we just ended, like, we're not using Iron Man anymore, but now we have the X-Men and Fantastic Four. One of the things we want to see, right, is characters like the core original Avengers from the comics and the MCU, right? Along with seeing, here's the Fantastic Four, here's Spider-Man, here's the X-Men. Kind of having that full Marvel universe for the first time. Especially once we get past the Fox X-Men and stuff, like getting to actual, like, hey, they're all available. You can use like any character essentially to build up to this next Avengers movie or Avengers roster would be great. So, with that being said, so far, I think they've done it right with only announcing these two. There's potential for a third. We obviously know X-Men is being worked on. It was not present in this. We'll maybe talk about that a little bit later. But just knowing there are stuff coming, it's after Secret Wars, and kind of getting a glimpse of what type of projects are coming. One of the downsides with something like a Ghost Rider, we already know Nova's in the works. Feige also confirmed that to Brandon Davis again, since it wasn't part of this. That makes me think that I'm right and that it's a 2029 movie. Is we've been kind of harping for a while, right, about let's get we keep introducing new characters. Let's kind of get more of the characters that have already been introduced, like a Shang-Chi, a sequel. And that's still not part of any of this, right? And I part of that I think is that they probably want Daniel Destin Cretton to do um another Shang-Chi movie. But right now he's in the middle of doing Spider-Man Brand New Day. That's wrapped. I think now he's working on a Naruto either movie or show. I'm not a big fan of that, so I don't actually know. But I've heard about that. And then of course Wonder Man season 2 is being in the works and he was directing and creating that. So, at some point, if Amy Pascal and Kevin Feige are to be believed on how much they really enjoy Brand New Day, they're gonna want him back for Spider-Man 5, which means that pushes Shang-Chi further down the line unless if somebody passes it off and says, "You know what? Let's get another director on this so we're not just sitting here waiting." So yeah, we have a Ghost Rider movie that's being introduced. That's a new character entering the MCU. I know people say, "Well, Robbie Reyes in Agents of Shield." Again, I feel like the status of that is just totally up in the air if that's canon or not, right? And like I said, post Secret Wars, they can kind of retcon, do whatever they want with all these characters now existing in one world. Maybe, you know, we'll see. The next thing that was announced was Black Panther 3. And this is one that I suggested like has to be one of those 2028 dates. And here it is. Black Panther 3. Ryan Coogler is back directing this, but not just that. We now have a recast Black Panther. So let's maybe rephrase that a bit. It's not a new T'Challa, technically. This is what T'Challa Jr., right? That we met in Wakanda Forever. That was a little kid. Um, and I always kind of figured they were going to either age him up through something or time skip or just being like, hey, okay, post Secret Wars, universe is put back together. T'Challa Jr. is now older. Boom, Black Panther 3. And that seems like what we got going on here. They have cast him. It's David Jonsson. I'm not familiar with him really. I've seen him, I think, posted online and stuff. I don't think I've seen him in anything, but he was just in The Long Walk, which people were kind of raving about his performance there. And of course, people were praising his performance in Alien Romulus, which I have not seen any of the Alien movies, so I can't tell you how he is in that. But let's see if there's anything else that he has been in as like smaller roles or anything like that. So he was in the TV show Industry, which I didn't watch. So no, no, nothing that I would have seen him in. But I guess I've just seen him around on social media. People fan casting him. I definitely saw that in the build up to this. But that's interesting. And apparently, according to Ryan Coogler and Kevin Feige, he was cast like 6 months ago. Um, Ryan was finishing up his work on Sinners, and then they were doing, the I guess Academy Awards, and then he had a meeting with David Jonsson after watching him in something, and then had a meeting with Feige and him, and there you go. He's cast as the next Black Panther. Really curious on how this will go. I think Shuri will still be in it, but I'm guessing a potentially like they could do some sort of mentor mentee type of storyline. Him taking up his father's mantle. I think a lot of people think they're just going to kind of hand wave the fact that he is a junior away. I think for this to feel like a proper trilogy. Um, and the fact is that Ryan Coogler was working on all three of these movies. He's not just gonna like hand wave that aside. I think that the focus will probably be on taking the his dad's mantle and being the Black Panther, and you know, then you kind of have like this nice through line of Black Panther being about T'Challa, Black Panther 2 being about his death and Shuri taking up the role while also then discovering this kid, and then you kind of wrap up that trilogy with here we are with a with him taking the mantle from Shuri and having to live up to what his dad was. And then from there, if you keep obviously they just cast him, so I don't think they're gonna be like, well, that's it, you're one and done. He'd be in new Avenger movies. He would be in maybe a potentially Black Panther 4 that maybe is not written or directed by Ryan Coogler and they kind of move forward, or who knows how this really goes, or he keeps coming back to keep making Black Panther. But I would think most likely, with how well Sinners did and everything, he's doing his X-Files reboot, right? He's going to be doing other passion projects other than this. So I do think potentially that might be it for him. So but yeah, so I'm really excited for it. I liked Wakanda Forever a lot, so I'm I'm pleasantly surprised to get this news during this. The next thing we have here is this new Doomsday poster. For people that are listening, it's just like this, green fog and Doom walking fully suited up through the smoke or fog here, and it just looks really cool, really badass. Doom. So I guess let's go ahead real quick. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a short moment here, and then we'll be back to talk about the trailer description and the audio transcription of what that was from the people that saw it in Hall H. We are back, and we are going to be talking about the trailer description here. Uh, the transcription as well here that somebody was nice enough to transcribe here. So we have Sue Storm kind of narrating at the top of this trailer. She says, Victor was always the smartest guy in every room. He used to be different. He used to be kind. He used to be caring. Everything he loved was taken from him. I know he was lost, but I didn't realize he was broken. Then you kind of see some stuff going on, I guess, right? That they describe. And then we have Reed talking to Doom, saying, Victor, did you do this? Victor saying, all of you have lived stolen lives, and now you must give them back. Then Reed, a little bit more upset, saying, answer me, Victor, did you do this? Thor, I swear you will beg for hell long before I grant it. With Doom saying, hell answers to me, for I am Doom. Which is nice, getting RDJ to say I am and then the character name again. With, I guess, without the doctor part in there. But yeah, so my thought on that. So one, I've kind of been banging on the drum since at least the chair reveal, and I think anybody that listened to the last few episodes will agree with me that I've been saying this. That obviously they were going to have Reed and Doom have a history. And that's confirmed in this trailer, right? The description we're reading, the words we're reading say that Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm is saying kind of the background on Doom, and that he is lost everything. He's, he used to be kind, caring. So they have a history with this guy. We also know because of that, right? And because of the movie that we saw last July, almost a year ago, that it is the Doctor Doom from the 828 Fantastic Four universe. So there you go. That's another plus. And then we have uh obviously Reed confronting Doom with Victor, did you do this? We don't know what he's referring to here. Is he referring, is he somehow the cause of the incursion? Is he somehow the cause of uh something else? Is it referring to potentially something with Franklin, because we know he goes and sees Franklin in the post credit scene of Fantastic Four? We don't know. um I do think potentially this is part of, if Doom is positioning himself as a good guy for a bit, and maybe he still thinks he is, right? Like, Doom can still think he's a good guy this whole time. That potentially he does something, maybe he kills somebody, right? Or maybe it is something bigger, like these incursions are actually being caused by him. I don't know how he would do that, I guess, per se, but you know, there is that. With this too, we have Doom saying the lines of "You all live stolen lives," and that's, I guess, that's where I'm the most curious on in this is, what is he referring to here? Is it something that they did in Endgame that caused it, because originally they were supposed to be only 50-50, right? And Doom sees them messing with time as some sort of stolen stolen lives a bit, or it could be something else, I guess, entirely. Um, with the fact that they have these incursions and maybe they are defeating the other planets and kind of keep themselves safe for a time, and Doom sees this as some sort of stolen life because they had to defeat other characters. I, that's the part that really gets me the most interested, is what is Doom's motivations? We hear from Sue, he's lost everything. The poster that was shared earlier, I guess this week it was, um, right behind me on the screen here, has the tapestry. It has a woman and a child in the heavens. Did he lose his wife and kid because of an incursion, or something to do with one of these characters that I know a lot of people are speculating on, Steve returning the stone somehow led to an incursion. I don't know, right? Like, from what we've been told before, and this is where this kind of stuff can always get wonky, right? Because what we've always heard before is that, from Loki specifically, right? These and we know Michael Waldron too is did start writing on this too with Marcus or McFeely, I forget which one it is, uh, writing on this. Um, and that potentially they're using him for a lot of the multiverse aspects, one would assume, because he kind of set a lot of that up in Loki. But in Loki, they say that, he who remains allowed them to do this because it was supposed to be done. So they didn't go after them, anything like that. We now have a new head of the TVA, right, in Loki, who's in this movie. So could be something to do with, does Loki allow this stuff, or how does this stuff actually work? Was it technically still able to create incursions, but he who remains looked the other way because it was the way that he needed this to be set up in the 616 for it to go the way he needed to do, so that way there would be no multiversal war? That's the question. Do they still somehow try to tie in some of the He Who Remains lore and the Loki lore there, which is so focused on He Who Remains and Kang, right? That they still try to fit that in and work it with Doom? We're like, oh, this is kind of what he was trying to prevent before they killed He Who Remains is maybe not all the Kangs, but also Victor Von Doom popping up and being a problem. Whereas it's just a side effect of the multiversal war that an incursion maybe takes out Doom's family and he seeks revenge on whoever would have done it. I don't know. I think those are really interesting things on how to look at and kind of dive into what could this movie possibly be. Kevin Feige was talking about how Infinity War is very much the first time they really focus on what drives Thanos, what is his goals. This movie is going to be similar for Doom. A very Doom focused movie that is what's his motivation, what is it going, and I think that with the hints from the poster of the missing, the people up in the sky in the tapestry, and then we have lines in this trailer that people are describing. It makes it seem like, yeah, he lost something. He lost them potentially, but what would cause it, right? And that's where I kind of get stuck. Is Steve returning the stuff that he's supposed to return? Cause it just because they took it anyway? Or does he not return everything the correct way because of, I don't know, some sort of issue, which then causes an incursion, or something else entirely causing the incursion that then maybe Doom is looking for ways to uh, looking for stuff and ends up placing blame on Steve or the Avengers because of them going back in time in Endgame and stopping Thanos. And they keep saying this is such a you know um direct sequel to Endgame. And I think people are looking at that totally wrong. Everybody keeps looking at that as like the new people don't matter when those new people are in the cast, by the way, for this movie. But what they mean is it's directly tied to the events that happen in Endgame that then is spawning these incursions potentially, right? Or causing what caused Doom to become a threat. And I think that's fair to say because we also had the events of Endgame are what triggered, or Infinity War is what triggered the events of Endgame to be where they're looking for ways to stop people and they go back in time to do it, which then kind of does open up the whole multiverse of everything anyway, which then leads to the TVA to interact, right? Because they took the Tesseract from back then and lost it in 2012. Loki is now on this path, right? Like, and the TVA tried to capture him and all this stuff. Like everything from phase 4 onward, as much as we maybe ignore it by saying start fresh, introduce us to new characters, but everything from phase 4 onward is triggered because of what happened in Infinity War and Endgame. So I think it's only fair that the next Avengers movie picks up those pieces and continues that as well. So all in all, why these projects announced? That's the next thing I want to talk about as we move on from Doomsday. Why Black Panther 3 and Ghost Rider? Why not X-Men? Why not this? So one of the things that is, you know, interesting is I don't know if they would have announced this stuff if they could have waited. But I don't think they could because these movies are 2028. Ghost Rider, Black Panther 3. With these movies being in 2028, it's 2026 right now. There is no, like, the next time they could announce it on Comic-Con stage would be 2027. All right. And with that, with 2027, July, my bet is that Ghost Rider and potentially Black Panther 3 are filming by then or gearing up for it, where you're going to start hearing trade reports of this person's cast in Black Panther 3. And you'd be like, well, we haven't even been announced that. So I do think they figured this stuff's going to be going in front of camera next year. Let's announce it now while we have Hall H, the build up to Doomsday, and then we can kind of just round out the rest of the panel with Doomsday stuff. And I think that's a good idea. I think that's a very strong idea on why they would do that compared to announcing it next year, which then you still would be like, why are you announcing something right before Secret Wars? Right. So, and I'm guessing they still will announce probably potentially stuff at Comic Con next year for after Secret Wars as well. But I'm just saying, like, if this stuff is already filming, have your moment to announce it and get the people hyped instead of it leaking. Now, unfortunately, Ryan Gosling as Ghost Rider did leak like just hours before this from one of the scoopers, which is a shame because this would have been. Now, for me, I take a lot of that stuff as with a grain of salt. So because some of those leakers are wrong pretty consistently, I just kind of was like, I don't know if that's true. We'll see tonight. And then it was announced. I'm like, oh yeah, they got that one right. But so I still had that great moment of like, oh my God, that was true. While some people just really, I feel like, take a lot of those words uh, without the grain of salt and just say that's absolutely true. And then they, get done the panel and they're like, well, nothing I didn't already know. Right. Like we already knew Black Panther 3 was happening. Coogler's talked about it. But the big news here is the recast or the casting of an aged up T'Challa Jr. So why not X-Men? Why not the X-Men? That's a good question. And I think it just lies in the fact of they've been really secretive about who Sadie Sink is playing in Brand New Day. Most people assume she's playing Jean Grey. Some scoopers have said that's who she's playing. But again, they can be wrong. They can be wrong. But let's say they're right. Let's say they're right. And you want to announce the X-Men and their cast, or at least some of the cast. There's no good way to do it. A week out from the movie. Okay, yesterday was like 6 days out from Spider-Man Brand New Day official release date of the Friday the 31st. They have the early showings on the 29th, which is a Wednesday, so that's 3 days from now. And then they have some, they have the Thursday preview showings, which is when I'm going. And then they have, the Friday official showing. So, and some of those territories overseas, I think, are getting at the 29th, but on their calendar, which means pretty much the 28th for us, or could be, or very early before those 29th showings start over here, right? So stuff is going to be spoiled. So that's in 3 days from when I'm recording, the 26th. So you either so there's no good way to do it, because if she is playing Jean Grey, you either spoil that by bringing her out on stage and saying, here's the X-Men cast for May of 2028. Here they are. And you're like, okay, why are you telling us this? Well, you couldn't save that for once Spider-Man's in theaters. So there's a little bit of a downside here. And remember, Spider-Man was actually originally supposed to come out a little earlier. It got pushed because of the Odyssey, like a couple weeks. So who knows? Maybe their original plan was, hey, we're going to announce them here too. You know how far they plan this stuff out. Kevin Feige says he has movies planned out till 2042. So who knows how far they plan out their Comic-Cons. But my point being, then if you announce an X-Men movie and you get everybody out there and you don't announce a Jean Grey because you don't want to spoil Sadie Sink is Jean Grey, then you're like, everybody's like, well, that must be she's Jean Grey then, right? They announced a Scott, they announced a, whatever, all the lineup of characters, and they're like, Jean's missing. Well, maybe that confirms our suspicions, right? So it's almost like a confirmation bias. Whether you do put her out there or you don't put her out there, people will come to the same conclusion. So one of the scoopers said yesterday, same one that got Ryan Gosling right, Daniel RPK, right? Usually gets trailers stuff right. He comes out and says X-Men at D23. So if we take that to be true, usually D23 they focus more on the TV shows. I do think there was a year that they did Thunderbolts there. Um, I'm trying to confirm that right now. I should have looked that up beforehand. But I believe they did Thunderbolts there potentially. I'm trying to look at the production on Wikipedia here of this. Let's see. I don't know because actually it looks like 2024. No, that was originally the release date, 2024. But what year in Comic Con did they announce? Maybe 2022. So maybe a Comic Con after all. I don't know. But anyway, usually they reserve it for some of the other stuff. But here's the thing. If you know, okay, Spider-Man Brand New Day is coming out the 31st. Our panel is the 14th at D23. And we don't want to spoil Sadie Sink, maybe. Or maybe we got to tie up some of the other actors, give it some time. Then, boom, August 14th sounds like a better date to announce the X-Men movie and have the full cast out there. Potentially. Potentially. I mean, really, they could do whatever. David Jonsson apparently was cast 6 months ago. So, I mean, they might have everybody already locked up and ready to go. But again, the only reason to push it would be if she is playing Jean Grey. And that, again, means that it's almost confirmation bias whether you announce it at Comic-Con with her, without her, or announce it at D23. People are just being like, yeah, it's because she's Jean Grey. Right. So I would actually find it really hysterical if she's not Jean Grey at this point. I do think she is because of just so many people saying it. Some of one of the trailers really led me to believe it's her, but it would be hysterical if it's not. And everybody's just like, what? Really? But like, who else would what else would you save it for? You know what I'm saying? Like, what other role would she be playing that you're like, we're not going to tell you who she is? Like what? Like what other role? Black Cat? Not that she really seems to fit the Black Cat like look, usually, you know, different hair color. Not that she can't dye it, but I think from what we've seen in the movie or screenshots, pictures of trailer and stuff, she has her red hair. So and we already have an MJ, so it's not that, right? So it really gets narrowed down to who else would she be playing, right? Who else would be this secretive to keep this important to keep secretive, right? So it does seem like that's the way it's going. Ryan Reynolds also did have an appearance here. He was talking dressed up as a like denim Deadpool, uh, asking if they had started filming and if he can be in the movie. Now, I don't know. I didn't get to see the full clip of this. So I don't know if this is supposed to be a fun way of announcing he's in the movie, a fun way of confirming he's not in the movie, or just a fun Comic-Con thing. Who knows? We'll find out in December, unless if it, gets confirmed or deconfirmed another way. But just a fun little exchange there. Okay, well, that's Comic-Con, which means our next episode that we're going to have is Spider-Man Brand New Day. Hopefully get, our panel reaction of that sometime later this week or early next week. It's here. The movie is here. It's literally just days away at this point. I'm excited. I've stayed away from the newest trailer. I've seen enough. I'm ready to just go in and see what the movie is. Who's the bad guy? The main bad guy? Who, how these other bad guys fit into it? All that kind of stuff. Really looking forward to seeing how that plays out on the actual screen. So that's that. Thank you all for watching or listening along with us here. So we'll have Spider-Man Brand New Day coming up soon. We'll have, of course, the D23 news when that drops, whenever that is, sometime in mid-August that we'll discuss that stuff. We have an X-Men 97 season 2 episode we'll be having soon. And of course, Lanterns on the DC side. Lanterns season 1 premiere is around that D23 weekend as well, August 16th. So we have a lot coming up here to talk about. So thank you all for watching and listening along, and we'll catch you next time when we talk Spider-Man Brand New Day.